Hello everyone, I am Code Gorilla, and today I'm going to be running for you Anodyne 2 Return to Dust, specifically the All Cards Good Ending route. The purpose of this video is to be a marathon submission video for a variety of marathons coming up. In particular, AGDQ 2023 has its submissions open right now, so that's what I'm currently attempting to make a video for, but obviously it can be used for other marathons as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube thank you for taking the time to consider this run. We're going to go through the settings real quick here. Let's see, camera distance, camera speed, look good. Double health and invincibility need to be off for the run to be valid. Save on, skip dialogue on, flip controls off. Show text immediately on, and we're going to be running in simplified Chinese because it has the least amount of text overall. Before we get started, one brief disclaimer. There is a glitch used in a couple places throughout the run called pause gliding that involves rapidly pausing and unpausing the game in order to extend the distance of a glide. If you are sensitive to rapidly cycling screens, I suggest you look away at those times. Just a quick heads up. I'll try to warn you as they come up, but just in case I don't, just be forewarned. With that disclaimer out of the way, we can go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1, go. So right off the bat here, we're going to have a cutscene, and we're actually going to skip the second half of this cutscene by jumping out of the cutscene trigger as soon as we gain control of our character. That is going to look a little something like this. Just like that. And just like that, we are on to the tutorial of the game. This gives you an idea of the basic gameplay loop of this game. You explore the 3D world to find 2D worlds. You explore the 2D worlds to find collectibles. Normally, cards and dust are the things you care about, but for the tutorial, it's going to be these 3 elements of nurturing, or elements of a balanced breakfast, as I like to call it. And then you turn in those collectibles to unlock more parts of the 3D world. Now, coming up here, we're going to do our first glitch of the run, called a pause float. It looks like this. So what that is if you jump and then immediately pause the game, and if you're playing specifically on the Nintendo Switch version of the game, you will maintain your momentum while you are paused, and as a result, you can gain arbitrary amounts of height. As you can imagine, that's fairly useful. We're going to use it all over the place in this run, at least in the first half of the run. It wanes in usefulness a little bit in the later parts of the run. Here's another one. 1, 2, 3. You just have to know the timing for all of them, how long you need to actually stay paused for each one. Thankfully, there is a in-game timer on the pause screen, so you can use that to time out your pause floats as necessary. And we are already on to the third and final part of the tutorial here. We're getting an idea for how combat works in this game. You're armed with a vacuum cleaner. You use it to inhale enemies and blocks and shoot them at other enemies and blocks, not unlike Kirby. There's no power copying or anything like that, but the basic vacuum mechanic reminds me of that. And just like that, we're done with the tutorial. Asterisk. What would normally follow is a tutorial boss. 1, 2. But the way they try to get you to fight the tutorial boss is they actually lock you in an area with invisible walls. But they forget to put an invisible ceiling on that area, which means we can just pause float right on outside and skip the tutorial boss entirely. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. While I'm doing that pause float, I'm actually going to set up for the next trick, which is called a save float. It works the exact same way as a pause float. It's just you trigger it by using the save dialogue instead of by using the pause menu. The benefit of that is you get to actually see how high you are and therefore plan and time things a little bit better. The downside is you have to have a save point nearby and you have to turn off text skip. You'll notice the dialogue is automatically advancing here. We don't want that. So there's my pause float. I just turned off the automatic text advance to set up for the save float coming up. And we can just do a little bit of out of bounds movement there, drop back in bounds, and get to the elevator that was blocked off to us. Now, unfortunately, because I turned off the automatic text advance, I do have to mash through this text here explaining the prism in the center. But now we get to do the save float. At the top of the save float, we're going to actually transition into a pause glide because we're heading out to some debug triggers that are on a platform way out of bounds. So this is your photosensitivity warning coming up as we get into these pink clouds here. I'm going to turn text skip back on while we're gliding over here. And we're just going to drive through 2 of these different triggers. So I angled the car in a specific way to drive through 2 of the 4 triggers on that platform. And that lets me actually stack 2 different cutscenes here. The 2 cutscenes I just stacked, one of them cleared the storm and unlocked a larger part of the 3D world. And the other one reinforced the prism in the center. And basically both of those are main things we would normally need to do for the story progression. Clearing the storm you normally do by collecting the first 4 cards, using them to reinforce the prism so that the prism can hold 100 dust, and then filling it up with 100 dust. We skipped all of that. However, we still need those 4 cards for the next part of the game. So instead of immediately moving on to the second section of the game, I am going to go back and actually do the first section and collect the 4 cards here. This is a rhythm minigame. There's a little rhythm minigame before most of the 2D sections in the game. They're essentially just short little auto-scrollers. I'm mostly not going to be talking during them, or going to try not to talk as much during them, so just because I don't want to screw up any of the inputs, and for me, talking during them, I use audio cues for them. Anyways, this is Mysteria Weisel. This is our first main 2D section of the game. Mysteria here. The main gameplay gimmick here there are these innocent slimes that you'll see in a minute. And if they die for any reason whatsoever, a gate will pop up to block your path going forward. And when I say die for any reason whatsoever, they are incredibly fragile. If you so much as walk into them, you will take damage and they will die. So they're kind of used as landmines, as you can see in this room. So we just gotta be careful and walk around them, not accidentally bump into them. If you do accidentally kill one of them, or intentionally kill one of them, you can just reset the room to clear that gate. Just leave the screen and come back. We actually use that a little bit later on here because using one of them as ammunition to hit a far off target and then resetting the room is faster than trying to actually walk all the way up to the target. At the end of this section, there is a boss that we are actually going to skip. The way the boss skip works is when you enter the boss arena, the gates don't immediately close until you fully enter the room. If you can hit the boss before the gates close, like this, the boss is in hit stun and can't close the gates when you enter the room, and you just skip right over the boss trigger. And just like that, we are done with Mysterio Weisel here. So we're gonna head out of here. You might have noticed a couple of times already, I have changed into a car. As you can probably imagine, the car is the fastest way we have to get around. So just assume that 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I needed to count that. Just assume that if I'm not changed into a car for some reason, just assume that I can't, because it is pretty much always faster unless you're trying to go up. But as long as you're covering flat ground, and sometimes even if it's kind of bumpy, because there are some shenanigans you can pull with the car, and pause gliding. It's almost always faster to be a car. This is Brand Malignant. The theme to Brand Malignant's area is fire. There are fire shooters, there are fire slimes, there's fire that pops out of the ground to try and burn you, there's freestanding fire that you gotta put out using water slimes. You get the idea. The main thing there actually is here is a bunch of cycles that you need to do some relatively precise movement to get early cycles. The best example of that is in this next room here. And you can see there I actually missed the cycle. It's kind of hard to get. You have to have very precise movement there to get it. But yeah, because these fire shooters shoot on a fixed timer that start once you enter the room, you end up having some fairly precise cycles to make in order to get a minimum number of shots and not have to wait for additional shots. Here we're going to face tank some fire because it's faster than actually going to the water slime. Here's another room where you have some precise movement to burn the gate with the second shot. That second room's a little bit more lenient as long as you don't stand in the way of the fire, which is very easy to do accidentally. Coming up here, we've got another boss. This one is theoretically skippable, but the actual positioning for it is, I think, sub-pixel perfect. And there's not an obvious setup for it, and also, it's not that much faster than just an optimal boss fight in that arena. So, as you can see, I just blew past that boss pretty quickly. Now, if you've been paying attention to the meter at the left side of the screen there, that is how much dust is in my tank. And you can kind of tell that my tank is getting pretty full. We don't want it to get completely full because then we don't pick up any more dust. And we're going to need 200 dust total for the next part of the game. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And there's a pause glide here. I was supposed to do that during the pause flow, and I just forgot. But yeah, so that's what we're doing right now. Is we're actually turning in this dust. We're coming out to this debug platform so that we can again stat cutscenes and do the dust turn in while also reinforcing the prism a second time, because we need to reinforce it a total of 2 times, which we've now done. Normally, it would cost 4 cards to reinforce it each time, but by using that cutscene trigger floating out in the middle of nowhere, you actually bypass that cost requirement. Gonna turn tech skip on right there while doing that short little pause float. And we are on to Gustine Papellum. We've got another rhythm mini game here, so I'm gonna shut up and do it. So the theme of Gustine Papellum, the gameplay gimmick, are these tongue levers, which thankfully look a lot more cartoony and stylized once we get into 2D than that 3D model does. Because otherwise this area would be completely horrifying. At least in my opinion. But yeah, we have tongue levers. So we've got things we pull on to retract walls, just like that. And you can see they're on a time limit with some of the walls. Some of them stay retracted. You get the idea. It's fairly straightforward. Not a whole lot to say about this area. When we get to the left side there's going to be some fairly precise movement in the last room on the right side. Last room on the right side has some fairly precise movement to get a very quick kill on an enemy. But other than that, there's not really anything special going on here. Here's the room that I was talking about. If you just position yourself on the previous screen and hold basically upright and vacuum, you get that quick kill. Here we've got another boss. This one is impossible to skip because of the tongue in the middle of the arena. But thankfully it also does not take very long to kill. And just like that, we're done with Gustine Papellum. Alright, we've got one more section to do here. We've got one more glitch coming up in 3D here. Kind of the last piece of our arsenal, known as a ride scale clip. So ride scale is the name of the car form. So this is ride scale. We can actually use your car form has a larger hitbox than you do, and we can actually use that to our advantage to squeeze the car form through a wall during the transformation sequence. We only really use that getting into this area and getting out, because otherwise there's this big maze you have to go through, which just takes a lot more time. And with that, we are on to Great Wall. Great Guam is a little light on gameplay gimmicks, but it does introduce a new enemy, which are these mini Guams that you'll see in the first couple rooms. They're burrowed underground to start with, and once you walk over them, they will pop out, at which point you can interact with them like normal enemies. But they don't really hurt you while they're underground, so you can just, if you don't need to kill them, you can kind of just ignore them and run past them. This top part does have kind of a gameplay gimmick. You have these dark rooms. They are exact copies of the light rooms above the ladders, except with those red ropes removed, and sometimes some additional sprites added, like in here. So it's just a matter of remember the layout of the room before you go down the ladder. And use that to get to the other ladder and cross the room. And then coming up here, we're going to disrupt the Guam family dinner. Don't worry about it. And then we've got another boss skip here. This is the last boss we're going to see for quite some time. And we're actually just going to skip it. And that gets us past Great Guam. And that gets us done with the first section of cards. Central City C-Note is the name of the city that we're in. We're going to do one more ride scale clip here. This one's a bit more difficult because the angle you have to cram yourself into is a lot more shallow, which makes it harder to pull that off. But then we're going to do some pause gliding here to get to the center. Then go up the elevator. And we're going to turn in our dust here. This is the intended way to turn in dust, is you interact with one of these dust pumps, and it empties your tank and puts it into the prism at least as much as it can. So we need 200 dust for the next portion of the game. We have 150 in the prism right now, and our tank can hold 90, so as long as we have a full tank, we'll be more than good to go. So we don't have to worry about turning in dust again for a little while. Two. So the blue veil section, which is the part of the game we're in now. By the way, there's a big pause glide. Oh, I can actually get up this roof. There's a big pause glide coming up here, so... Please land. Thank you. All right. Not quite as high as I had hoped, but still pretty good. What that did is it actually skipped the rhythm minigame for this 2D section and the talking to the NPC that you would normally do. So the way this section works is you actually are supposed to go through it twice. The first time you're supposed to drop into the bottom of the pit that we just floated over, talk to the NPC there, spark the NPC normally, and go through a rhythm minigame. And then you get to where we are now. And then you go through this, and basically everything from this point out is going to happen in the intended way, so you can see where we're going to end up. But we are making 2 passes through this. The first pass, we need to clean all the gravestones and read them. We're also going to pick up this key for future use. You would use it further down this structure, but since we're going through here twice, we'll just wait until the second pass to actually use the key. we get to the end. Hey, there's no dust crystal, but there is a portal here. And you can see that puts us on top of this structure that we floated to the top of earlier. And so, 1, 2, 3, 4. This dome here that we are now entering second time is how you're supposed to get to the living section of this. Now in our second pass, you can see there's color, there's music, there's NPCs. What we have to do to progress is talk to all of the NPCs that used to be gravestones. There's more NPCs than that, but we don't care about them. Here we're using our key to make a quick detour because there are now cards that are not at the end of these 2D sections. So right now we need all the cards, whether or not we were doing an all cards run. So yeah, that detour was just for that card. Now we're going to backtrack. And finish talking to NPCs. And at this point, it's basically just a walk to the end of this section with a couple of conversations along the way. The other thing Blue Veil introduces, the second set of 2D areas, there's only 3 2D areas, but there's a total of 8 cards. You get 1 from the dust crystal at the end of each 2D area. But then there's also, I think it's 3 cards that are in 3D and 2 cards that are in side chests in the 2D sections. So like the card that we got from the top of the structure earlier, the chest that we opened at the top of the structure earlier in 3D had a card in it. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's just going to get us out of that pit more easily. And that pit is where we're supposed to enter that 2D section. In any case, we're going to drive over here along the highway. We're going to make a quick pit stop here because there's a secret behind the waterfall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a pause glide. Open this for a card. 1, 2, 3. Another pause glide. Another pause glide here. Get over this branch as we drive off the freeway. Make a detour into this lake. Open up this pipe and drop down. And under the lake is our next 2D section. Iwasaki Antimon. We got another pause glide here. Get over to this bounce pad. And then one last pause glide. And we can get into Iwasaki Antimon. The theme here is ice. Which will be pretty self-evident after we do this rhythm minigame. Worth noting, there's a new element to the rhythm minigame, which are the gray crystals you see. For those, you just have to neutral the D-pad. All the other ones, you hold the arrow in the direction of the crystal to get through. So that's why I call it a rhythm minigame, is there's that element to it. Anyways, yeah, like I said, the theme here is snow and ice, as is fairly self-evident. We got a lot of different detours we got to make here, because you only need 1 key to get to the end, but there's a bonus card that you absolutely have to have, and that requires both keys. So we're going to make detours for keys. if you walk straight left in that room and you come in at the right height, you actually dodge those ice cubes entirely. But apparently my height was just a little bit off. Here we have the snowmen, which are the scariest enemy in the game, because they will chase you relentlessly after you walk near them, and if they hit you, they explode, and they do 2 points of damage, which nothing else in the game other than the final boss does 2 points of damage. And I'm actually a little low on health here, so I'm going to take a safety save the next opportunity I get, which is coming up in just a moment. Because it is very possible to die in this section, and you just have to redo the entire section since the last time you walked over a save point. So yeah, we're taking this safety save here. And we should be good now. And the other nice thing about the safety save is it also fully heals you. So in addition to being a better checkpoint, it also just makes it less likely that you're actually going to die. And saving in this game is just as simple as walking over one of those checkpoints, so... That said, we are now basically done with this section. We do have to make a brief detour into 3D where if you're playing this game casually, you could learn some lore about Iwasaki and the person that he idolizes. But this is the speedrun. No lore allowed. And we're done with this section. So you can actually use the pause floating technique to enter Iwasaki's area from that mailbox without ever coming down here. But the problem is you can't get to both keys and therefore can't get the card if you start on that side. Which means it doesn't actually end up saving any time because you still have to come down here to get the card. We are on to the third and final section of Blue Veil. We're going to make one more quick detour here for another card in 3D. 1, 2. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, followed by a pause glide. Bounce off this hill. Drop down here, talk to you. That's Lawnway Jonstein, and this robot head is Clonway Jonstein, or Cloneway, if you prefer. This is, in my opinion, the most difficult 2D section in Blue Veil to speedrun. Because there's just a lot of precise movements and a lot of places where you make one false step and you have to reset an entire room. And you'll see why in just a moment. The gameplay gimmick here is you have a shadow clone. You have Cloneway here following you. And this red goop, see, that's exactly what I mean. That red goop is deadly to Cloneway. But also you need Cloneway to touch these buttons, to turn spikes into shadow spikes so they can touch buttons. And Cloneway is very fragile. So are the shadow spikes. If they touch this red goop, they will also die. That said, there is no other way to kill the shadow spike, which comes up later on, but I digress. Here, Conway would have been on our way if we just tried to head straight to the exit, so we had to intentionally get up to that corner to dunk him into the jam. And this 2D section is separated into a series of different, I think they call them test chambers, very Portal-esque. That was the end of test chamber 1. We're now moving on to test chamber 2. Here we have to go through the top to get Conway around that moat. This is a room that always gets me, because if you just walk into that room too fast, you'll immediately dunk Conway and have to reset the room. You just have to be careful as you enter. Here's another room where we need to intentionally dunk Conway, because he would be in our way. Thankfully not too difficult. I'm going to get another safety save here in just a moment, because I'm at half health. And it's not out of the way at all, basically. Boop. You have to hit that top button first, because otherwise the Conway will get dunked in the jam when you try to position the shadow spike. Oh yeah, you also have these teleporters, which will instantly swap you and Conway. Alright. In this room, hey, we're in a good spot in the cycle here, so we can just run up the side of that room, hit both switches. And we're nearly done here. This is the last test chamber. We've got one more room where we need to do an intentional dunk. By the way, Conway says trans rights. Or at least this room does. And there we go. And that is Conway Jonstein. So yeah, like I said, that is, in my opinion, hardest one of the Blue Veil section. Just a lot of very precise movement if you want to do that section quickly. Going into this next section, we're going to undergo some trauma here. And what that means from a gameplay perspective is we're going to be slowed down and staggering, and not be able to turn into a car. So we're going to go through this cutscene. We're going to fall over or be on the ground when the cutscene ends. We're going to slowly stand up. We're going to take 8 slow steps, and then we're going to return to normal speed. And once we're in normal speed again, we can turn into a car. But there's a catch. There's an invisible timer going on that says if you take too long, you're going to drop out of car form and fall over on the ground again and have 8 more slow steps. 5, 6, 7, 8. Obviously, we want to avoid that. And the good news is, getting off the screen, doing a screen transition, resets that timer. Now, in this room in particular, it is a fairly precise line to not fall out, which I just barely made. Alright, pause spam here to get over this railing. So yeah, getting through these couple of screens without dropping out of car form until you're forced to here is pretty good. That's what you want to see for this section of the game. Now we have a cutscene here where we're seeking answers, and we believe our answers are on the other side of this dust storm. So we're just going to walk right through this wall, and it's going to take everything out of us. So we're going to fall over again, get up, all over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slow steps, and then we can turn into a car again. And we're going to just drive all the way to this door. Transform so we can go through the door, fall over again. We can no longer transform into a car, so that part doesn't matter, but we still get the 8 slow steps. Oh. So I think something that has happened here is I accidentally inverted my camera axis at some point when going through the settings, and it's messing up my camera controls more than I realized it would. Anyways, here we're going to do a jump at a precise time so that we don't fall over before we get through the doorway. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With a little bit of pause gliding to actually make it over here. And we're trying to enter this fruit, but this dog comes and eats it instead. So now we're going to enter the dog instead. It always jumps to the same places in the same order, so once you get a feel for it, it's not too bad. And with that, we have made it into Dustbound Village. Real quick here, let's talk about cutscene displacement. So there is one other glitch you can do in 2D here, where if you're going from one cutscene into another cutscene, like we are right now, and you hold directions on the directional pad, I'm holding down and right now, you can actually start moving while the screen is loading before the next cutscene actually locks you in place. You still get locked in place, but you get a head start on the place you're going to. So here, I'm supposed to spawn next to the bed, and you can see I'm actually much further down than that. It's relatively minor because there's not a lot of 2D cutscenes, except in this part of the game. This is an extended 2D section here with a lot of cutscenes in it, so that particular trick becomes very relevant here specifically. To get an idea for what this part of the game is we have now made it to Dustbound Village, where we are cut off from our entire support network, everyone we know and love, and we're kind of stuck here. So we're kind of trying to make a new routine for ourselves. And the way that manifests in gameplay is there's actually going to be 3 different types of segments, of gameplay segments. At least once we finish the grand tour here. There's 3 types of gameplay segments we need to do. There's gardening segments, there's ritual segments, and there are wrestling segments. We're going to do each of those types of segments multiple times to kind of establish our character's new routine. You'll see what I mean in a minute. In any case, I'm holding down and right here again for another spawn displacement. It matters a lot there because, as you saw, my speed was greatly reduced. And you actually start taking damage after a short period of time. But by doing that, you don't take any damage and you get through that a lot faster. So here's our first gardening segment. This is the most like the 2D segments we've already seen, where it's just go through rooms, kill the enemies, the sort of action we're used to at this point. So it's referred to gardening because these are apparently weed enemies that are threatening the crops of this town. So defeating them is gardening. Sure, we'll run with it. We're on our way to the first ritual section. And the ritual sections are always the same. You walk down here to the train station. The train station takes you to the shrine. You walk into the shrine. You roll the dice, you cross the rickety bridge, and you send a sacrifice down the slide. And the only thing that changes is the result of the die roll and the thing you send down the slide. And then finally, we have the wrestling sections, which are these sort of staged boss fights. They are... So, it's kind of hard to explain what I'm doing there, but I am pretending to hit my target. You can see I was kind of shooting near the target. The intended thing to do is to actually shoot directly at them, hold the button down, and let go of the button when your projectile is right next to the target. This is actually... This wrestling section is going by so fast I don't have time to explain it. But yeah, that was Wrestling 1. But yeah, it's basically, it's wrestling. It's staged combat. From there, we're going to go straight into Gardening 2. There are actually only 2 gardening segments as opposed to 3 of everything else. Oh, that's unusual. This enemy escaped. But again, this is just the 2D gameplay you're used to at this point. That's not what was supposed to happen. And yeah, I took a lot of damage there, but the gardening sections are the only spot in which your health matters, and that was the last one of them. And plus, we're going to get a free save on the way to our second ritual section, which is what we're on the way to right now. I don't have a lot more to say about this part of the game. The wrestling sections are the most interesting of the 3 parts, because they're the most dynamic. So, we're going to go into our second wrestling section here. The attack phase and defend phase have been replaced by a back and forth phase, where you trade blows like this. Then we're going to immediately go into the quick time event for gardening, or for Wrestling 2. The last button in the quick time events is always Y, so when I know I'm near the end, I just start mashing. And then the finale here is you hit the target, you inhale it, and you shoot him out of the ring. Then we've got some cutscenes here. This is another example of spawn displacement. You're supposed to be kind of directly above that character on the ground. I held left, so I'm not even paying attention to what's going on. But here it doesn't matter because this is all cutscene. You always back up to the same spot in the same amount of time. So, but I'm holding left for this part where at the end of this cutscene we'll gain control and we need to go back to the shrine. So holding left gets us a little bit of a head start. It's only like, I don't know, it's like 2 or 3 tiles. It's not that big of a head start, but every little bit counts. We are on our way to the third and final ritual section, after which is the third and final wrestling section, after which is a like 2-minute, 15-second cutscene. So get excited for that, I guess. This time we are sacrificing ourselves by going down the slide. Alright. We've once again got a back and forth section. followed by a quick time event, followed by a what I call the DDD section, which will make sense if you've played almost any Kirby game. If you're careful, you can get this in 2 cycles. I'm doing a poor job of that right now, but yeah, that was not a great DDD section, but it's fine. And then finally, you're supposed to do a back and forth where you reflect that shot between yourselves a couple of times. But if you just stand close to them and mash the reflect button, you get through it very quickly. Anyways, here's that cutscene I mentioned. It's a good time to get up and stretch. Which is exactly what I'm going to do here. Not quite long enough for a bathroom break, but if you need to, long enough to run to the kitchen and get yourself a drink. I use that audio cue there to know when to split. That said, there's still plenty more cutscene here. So, something interesting to talk about is the difference between any percent and all cards. The 2 routes are actually exactly the same up until this point right here. This is where the 2 routes diverge. If you're doing any percent, you would now go to do a short dust grind. We don't need to do that because we're going to naturally pick up all the dust we need while getting all of the optional cards in the game. To actually beat the game, what you have to get the good ending, at least, is you need a fully assembled collar, and you need 150 dust in the prism. And then additionally, because this is all cards, we need to get all the cards. Like I said, the 150 dust is going to be easy as long as we make sure to turn in dust at least once, since our tank can only hold 90. The collar pieces. So the collar is formed of 3 collar pieces and a collar base. Those 3 collar pieces can actually be in 5 different locations, and they're just in the first 3 of those 5 locations that you open up. So we're going to pick the 3 that are the shortest, most on the way locations to get. One of which is in here, which is why I bring it up. But also, we're going to meet the dolphin. This is the dolphin. If you thought this game was weird, you're right. But also, it gets weirder. Let's see if I can do this rhythm minigame. I did it. This is normal. This is fine. Don't worry about it. If you're thinking, man, this is a speedrun. I want to play this game so I can understand the context around what's going on here. I regret to inform you, playing the game naturally is not going to give you the context to understand this. In any case, let's play an entirely different game, shall we? This is Nora. Welcome to Her Boring Life. And the reason I say that, that's actually the name of the song that's playing right now. So we got to get out of the apartment building here. There's a specific path you can take to get out of it faster. But if you just kind of wander around aimlessly, you will eventually get out automatically. But this is the fastest route, as far as I'm aware. It's left, up, right, up, right, up. Anyways, we're back home. We're going to check social media and then go to bed. It's a new day. We look out the window. We leave. Thankfully, we don't have to walk out of the apartment again. Go to work. Thankfully, the workday is abbreviated. There's a gargoyle in front of our door. Thankfully, we can walk around it. Check social media. And go to bed. Social media is interesting tonight. And then we've got some cutscene as some stuff happens that we can't control. And then what would normally follow this is an honest-to-God horror segment. But thankfully, it's so different from everything else that's in the game that the developers were very kind and said, hey, we understand that this may not appeal to fans of the rest of the game, so we've given you an option to skip it, to just climb down this fire escape and leave. Turns out that's also way faster, so we also use that. And yes, that was meeting the dolphin. That was desert NPC. That was worth a card and a collar piece. Next is New Zealand, which to open up, we first have to talk to the 5 trees in this area in a specific order. We talked to the first 2 before we headed into Desert NPC. Words are hard sometimes. That was 3 and 4. We're gonna make another quick detour over here because there is a hidden chest under this pile of rocks that has, you guessed it, a card in it. And then over to tree number 5. And yeah, so we got another rhythm mini game. So let me shut up and do this. Just taking a quick look at how this compares to my PB. A little bit behind, but I kind of expect that for when I'm giving commentary. It is hard to speedrun and give commentary at the same time, which I'm sure is not really a surprise to anyone. Anyways, this section will look familiar to you if you've played Anodyne 1. If you want to understand the connection between Anodyne 1 and Anodyne 2, so do I. If you figure it out, let me know. In any case, we have New Zealand, which is this medieval fantasy sort of setting. We've now also gained the ability to spark when we're in nanoscale, and use that to enter picoscale, which is that low resolution section you saw just a moment ago. This is a very large and open 2D section that we have to navigate through now. The thing that kind of dictates the route we take through this is these pink blocks. There are 7 of them. You have to talk to them in a specific order. So we just go in the order of these blocks and do things around them. Because we kind of need to go everywhere in this area. So we're just going to go up this channel here. Raft navigation is a little awkward. You can either push by walking up against the edge of the raft, or you can pull by using your vacuum cleaner. I'm kind of doing both here. But both of those only let you go in cardinal directions, which is part of the challenge. Here we've got another picoscale section that is going to be worth another card at the end. So the goal here is to destroy the pink crystals in order to unlock the next room. You cannot inhale these spike enemies. You can shoot them to kill them. They take 3 shots. I'm getting my routing here, but it's mostly okay. Alright, that was a little messy, but it's fine. We got through it. That's what matters. Anyways, yes, at the end of that, we got another card. Although, unlike most dust crystals that you've seen before, that one did not give us a bunch of dust. It was a largely decorative dust crystal. There is block number, I think that's 3. Here we've got a room full of slimes, and you have to find Waldo. And also, the innocent slimes are back. You have to make sure not to destroy any of them. And you do that to meet the huge slime, who is blocking our way. So we're going to enter the huge slime and defeat the huge slime's inner child here. And for some reason, that is going to make the huge slime turn into a regular-sized slime. Don't ask questions. So what we're trying to do here for the overall plot of this section is find these 4 artifacts. You can see I just picked up one there, the armor piece. We are heading to go pick up another one, as well as 2 more blocks. So, because the fastest way to move the raft around is using your vacuum cleaner, as soon as you inhale an enemy, you move very slowly, because you now just have to walk into the sides of the raft. Anyways, we got block number 4 there, and a shooting gallery for block number 5 here. We're going to deal with this old slime to open up that gate so that we can climb this mountain. But first we need to go land in a better spot. Climb the mountain here. And then at the end of this mountain path, there is a little mini trading sequence. So we go Bottle, Cow, Hat Kid, Squinty, Ghost, King, Purple Hair, Baldy, Knight, Shield Maiden, Shield. You're supposed to actually, like, talk to them to find out what it is each one of them wants. I obviously just have it memorized. Head over here and head north. Double back to the castle, because on the other side of the moat, off to the side of the castle, is block number 6 of 7. Now that we've got that fully prepped, we can actually go to the spot where we need all those blocks, which is down this way. And here's block number 7. And if you went through them in the right order, that opens up. And the boots are hidden right there. You're supposed to go through this section and talk to some NPCs to get clues about where those boots are hidden. I just know where they are, so you just skip straight to them. Here we're going to take this raft left until we've passed mostly this island, and then turn south. And we get into a little bit of a door maze here. Thankfully, there is a checkerboard pattern on the floor here you can see, and you always want to enter the door that is next to a dark square. Which makes it easy to remember what the correct path is. And now we have all 4 artifacts, so we're going to actually warp back out here to take this shortcut back to the start and turn in the 4 artifacts. Sword, the armor, the boots, and the shield. And that unpetrifies the prince there in the center. Now we're going to take this shortcut back the other way. Go back to where we were, because that happens to be the closest spot to the end of this area. Go up this way, over here, and down here. We got some tight little corridors navigating the raft. And if you come here before you've saved the prince, that wizard bug, is blocking the path. And here we meet Dustra the dragon. Dustra, short for Dust Dragon. First, we have to make Dustra dizzy by running circles around him. And then we can enter Dustra and have, for the first time in a while, a boss fight. Want to inhale the swords, shoot them at them. You can dodge that attack by just hugging the top wall. You can also use these shields to block attacks, but it's really not necessary. And you cannot cross the dotted line. I did not get that sword in time. It's fine. These actually always spawn in the same places in the same order, which makes this fight fairly easy to predict. And just like that, Prince here gets the killing blow and gets a kill steal, but now we get to inhale the Dustra as though it were a dust crystal, filling our tank and finishing this area with another card. And that is New Zealand. So we've got a full tank of dust, which means, again, like I said, we need 150 dust at the end. So we want to go turn in this full tank, and then we'll pick up 60 more dust along the rest of the way. So this will be the last time we actually turn in dust until the very end. So for those of you keeping track at home, we have 90 of our 150 dust. We have 1 of our 3 collar pieces. And honestly, I forget how many cards we've got at this point. We have 16 of 24 cards, so there's 8 cards left to get still. So we're going to immediately head back out. Head over to... so the name of this third section of the game is Outer Sands. Outer Sands east, west, north, and south. This is, I believe, Outer Sands north. And we need to go to the nighttime section, Outer Sands east. It's right here. We need to talk to two NPCs here who are having some issues and want us to fix their problems. And they claim that it's their house that has problems, but I recall you read into the subtext and it's maybe their relationship that has problems. But that's fine. We can be a marriage counselor for a skeleton and a gum golem. That's absolutely within our purview. First, we're going to make a quick detour here for this chest, which has, you guessed it, a card. And we're going to drive off this cliff here, drop down, talk to the skeleton and the gum golem, and enter their house. By the way, for fans of the rhythm minigame, enjoy it while it lasts. This is the last one in the game. Not paying attention because I'm trying to take a drink. So this is Loquat Skelgum. The main gimmick here is you have blobs of gum that you can pull and push around. And then you have these rib cages you can inhale with your vacuum cleaner and shoot at the blobs of gum. And when you do that, they extend and create a bridge for like 4 or 5 tiles. And so we have to use clever positioning of those things to create bridges to get around to the places we need to get. Which requires some fairly precise movement in parts. Especially, you have to do 2 loops on each side, because at the end you're going to get a key, but it's a special key that has a bunch of text that you have to read, and it flies to various obnoxious points on each screen, which forces you to build out more bridges. You'll see what I mean in just a minute here. So here's our key, and that key is going to fly away from us and go up top. We have to actually talk to it. Meanwhile, we're going to make this quick little detour here for yet another card. When it comes to moving the gum around, pulling is faster than pushing, and pushing with an empty tank is much, much faster than pushing with a full tank. If you have something in your tank and you try to push gum, you move very slowly. There's our bonus card that we were looking for. Now, once again, the key is gonna fly off. We have to talk to it to convince it to come back with us again. And one last time. Need to push it all the way into that corner. There we go. Now, the good news is it will fly itself into the keyhole for us. Alright. That room just has some relatively precise movement. Here you just need to make that bridge out so you can actually shoot the slime directly. Here you gotta pull this gum into position and then not miss. Actually turn towards the gum and shoot it. Then we've got our second key. And this one's also going to be obnoxious and fly to inconvenient locations. Like so. And like so. Oh, don't go through the teleporter. And over there. And there we go. And then, are you ready for an incredibly difficult boss encounter? Very difficult. Very hard. I discovered this by accident, by the way. You just go stand here by the door. The door is actually going to protect you from most of the shots. You'll get hit 3 times by the time the timer runs out. So, yeah, just tank the damage. There's nothing after this. You get a free full heal, so you might as well. And we're ignoring that chest in the back. It has a collar piece, but believe it or not, that's actually one of the more out-of-the-way ones to get. So, we're going to skip it. And there we go. We're done with Loquat Skeldon. And from there, we're heading up to Orb. Orb Sector 4-16-5, I think is the series of numbers that comes after it. This is Orb. You gotta talk to it 3 times and then enter it. For some reason, there is no rhythm in a game entering this location. Maybe because it's a more willing entry than many of the other ones. I don't want to speculate on the lore here, but that's my theory. Anyways, this is Faberhem. Faberhem makes fashion. And our job is to go around to the different floors of the building and get fashion orders from various residents and then build outfits for them. And each time we do that, we get access to another floor. That jingle you just heard means that chest had a collar piece in it. So that is now 2 of 3. Oh, nope, sorry. Did not want to go downstairs. We'll go back here and let's build a fashion outfit. Now, that person had some very specific requests. We're going to ignore them and build the fastest outfit that we can. Because it actually does not matter if you do a good job in meeting their request or not. It will unlock the path forward all the same. This floor we're just going to talk to the first person because that's the person that has an order. And there's nothing else on that floor that we need. So back over here. And you want the exact same fashion. It's a hot look right now. That's what everyone wants, right? Similarly, we don't have to go back to actually confirm that anybody liked their order. That's the person with the order on this floor, but we also need to walk all the way over here to get that card. Back down here. Open the studio once again. And I am just realizing I forgot to do something earlier. And that's gonna matter here in just a moment. I think I forgot to do something. We're gonna double check. So, I need to come in here to get this card anyways, and then if I've done the route right, I'm supposed to come over here, to come out and go through this gate. But I forgot to open that gate earlier. So instead, I need to go the long way around. That's a little unfortunate. I'll go ahead and split there. So yeah, if I had opened that gate, what that would have done is it would have let me exit that area and come back into 3D basically next to this tree over here that we entered to get to New Zealand. It would have been a useful shortcut that would have saved, I don't know, 10 seconds. Yeah, we would have come out basically there, and this is where we're heading next. So we've got one last pause glide in this run right here, so pause glide incoming. That chest right there has the collar base that we need to fully assemble our collar. And with that, we can head on to Pastel Horizon, which has all the rest of the cards that we need and the last collar piece that we need, conveniently enough. So, yes, we are once again back here. And you might wonder, well, couldn't you have already been here if you just entered the tree? Yes, but this portal would not be open. So this is Pastel Horizon. This actually has some of my favorite music and aesthetic in the game. It's honestly one of the reasons I like doing all card speedruns, because in any percent you just skip this section completely. There's no reason to go here. So for the first part of this raft, we're actually following those rose petals. We're going to make a detour here to enter this pump, because if you try to follow that path of rose petals any further, you get stopped by ghosts. So instead, we're going to enter the inner workings of this pump and turn it on, and I forget what it does, but it scares the ghost away, which is what we need right now to get to the lower half of Pastel Horizon. Pastel Horizon is also a large open 2D section, much like New Zealand was. We basically just sail around the perimeter of it and pick up things along the way, because a lot of the center is just open sea. I'm also trying to get enough dust here. As a reminder, we need 60 dust by the time we leave this area. So we're a little bit behind, but there is a convenient spot to grind coming up. So it's not a big deal if we are a little bit behind. Alright, we're gonna take this raft, sail it this way. Bump into that whirlpool a little bit. It's fine. It's surprisingly difficult to actually dodge with the way the rafts maneuver and how much momentum they have. In general, it's hard to make precise movements with the rafts because they tend to keep their momentum pretty well. I can actually do some diagonal movement on this raft by using the vacuum in one direction and then just pushing myself into the corner. To just barely get around that little island right there to get to over here, which has another card after this pico scale section. And this is also going to be the spot where we grind if we need to. If we need to. $56. All right. This room is where you would grind. But it looks like we don't need to. Yeah, usually you at most have to grind like 5 to 10 dust. It's really not a big deal. Alright, we are just about done with this section. We've picked up 2 cards, and getting those 2 cards has unlocked our way to the final card, which is, you go through this, that's a color piece, that's a card, and you can leave. And just like that, we're back at the start and back out of here. Sorry. Go this way. Alright, and we are pretty much done with this run. We have to go actually use the color to get the 25th bonus card. And also unlock the good ending of the game. And then we have to do the final 2D section and the final boss. So, right now, we are back in Outer Sands. I forget which direction this is. South, I think. And we're going back to this tower and back to Dustbound Village. But things are not quite going to be the same in Dustbound Village, as you will soon find out. First, we gotta fall up the tower. Get over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, camera. Had a weird angle there that necessitated that extra pause glide. And here we're gonna pet the dog. And in fact, if the dog's so nice, we pet it twice. And then having that color establishes the link, which allows us to enter the dog and re-enter Dustbound Village. The thing is, everything is cleaned up and repaired since the last time we were here, and almost no one here has any memory of us, which is a problem. But here is our 25th bonus card. I call it a bonus card because it doesn't actually count on the main menu bonus. Like, the main menu, your save file, it will count how many cards you have. That one doesn't count. It caps at 24. Alright, and that's our revisit to Dustbound Village. We've now gotten the idea that, hey, the people that we've been working for the entire time, they might actually be the bad guys. And we should maybe do something about that. And what are we going to do about it? Well, the thing that we're going to do about it involves having 150 dust, which thankfully we have now. Just gotta fall down this tower the normal way. You can actually enter this door before you even hit the ground by just walking towards it, falling towards it, and mashing the door enter button, the interact button. We're just going to drive back to the center. We've got to turn in our dust, and then we need to confront the center. We're on our way to the final 2D section of the game. It is, of course, as you might expect, the longest and most difficult 2D section of the game, which I wouldn't have it any other way. If you were doing bad ending speedruns, you'd actually replace this with a dust grind, which is exactly the reason I don't generally do bad ending speedruns, because this is just way more interesting to run, even if it is more difficult and more likely to kill your run. It's a bunch of dialogue options asking you, like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure? But are you really sure? Etc., etc. You just mash through them as quickly as possible. And the reason we need 150 dust is so that we can jump down the prism and have enough dust at the bottom to cushion our fall. So that we don't just, die. And so now we're down here spying on our replacement. And we're sneaking up, and we're actually going to shrink down and enter our replacement. Welcome to Nano Cleaner Zera, the final 2D section of the game. And like many of the other 2D sections, it introduces a bunch of new gimmicks. So first we have these pink spikes. They'll damage you if you walk over them. They'll damage enemies if you walk them into them. You can shoot them to get them to retract. You also have bubbled enemies that you have to break the bubble on before they can be injured. We have these boomerang enemies that work the way you expect boomerangs to. That's essentially all the new gimmicks that are introduced here, but they're used in a bunch of creative and interesting ways. So yeah, here we can shoot boxes at this spike, and as long as that bubble is on it, it will not take damage. So we use the boxes to position it and push it across some switches. Just like that. And this bubble boomerang will keep the boomerang movement, but can collide with multiple enemies. So we just manipulate it into colliding with all the spikes. Our goal here is to destroy the 3 elements of nurturing that we collected way back at the beginning of the game. To do that, we need a key to each one, because they're all locked off. So we've got 1 key. We're on our way to get the second. Here you have to pause a little bit, because if you let that shooter walk into the pink spikes, it will die, and that shooter is your only way to destroy the spike enemies that you need to get rid of to get through the room. Now we're just going to backtrack now that we have our second key. It's time to go start spending some of these keys. Got another bubbled boomerang. And we start moving, and then just make sure we break these other bubbles before it catches up. That opened the path south from that room, which we will get back to in a minute. Here we need to defeat all the enemies, including the boomerang enemy. So after I destroy the 2 spikes, I break the bubble. And we are at our first element of nurturing. Use the vacuum to get them to stop moving around, and then shoot them as quickly as you can 10 times. That's 1 down, 2 to go. Let's see. I call them the elements of a balanced breakfast. That's our bowl of cereal. One other unique gameplay gimmick here that's only in this section of Nano Cleaner Zera are these red gates at the bottom of the screen. You open them by taking damage, and of course they've made taking damage something that's difficult to do in this part of the game. So like here you have to actually shoot yourself through the teleporter. And here you have to race the snowman because they will blow up on their own. You have just enough health to get through all of that without needing to bother to pick up any of the health drops. And then here's our element of temperature regulation. So that's 2 elements down. We need 1 more key. You can pick up this health if you want on the way back. Doesn't really matter because you've got a save point here that's going to full heal you. But it also doesn't slow you down, so I end up doing it just kind of out of reflexes. That's our third and final key. So now we're just going to backtrack almost all the way to the start of this section. Most of the content here is on the left side of this initial fork, but the last element is on the right side. So that's where we're heading now. Turn in our last key. Go ahead and make a safety save, because you got to wait for the key animation anyways. That's the one innocent slime in the game that you're allowed to kill. Here, you got to do some more careful manipulation of the boomerang bubble. Because you don't want it to hit any of those innocent slimes. There is our third and final element down, the element of a bottle of milk. We've destroyed the elements of a balanced breakfast. All that's left is to walk back to the center and fight the final boss. So the final boss is 3 phases, each of which has 2 parts. There's a 16-bit part and a 4-bit part. I don't know. I don't actually know what the point is. You shrink inside of it at various points. For the outer phase, we're going for a 6 cycle. That's 2 cycles per phase. For the inner parts, it'll be 6 shots each. Alright, so far so good. That's 1 cycle. It's 2 cycles. It gets harder with each progressive phase because the arm stays extended for a shorter period of time, and you're being harassed by fireballs. Then for here, you gotta shoot the spikes into the target at the top. They always come out at the same places at the same timing, so getting the first 6 possible shots is not terribly difficult. So that's phase 1 already done. Two cycles for phase 2. Let's do inner phase 2. 1, 2, 3. These 2, you can stack them if you want. It doesn't do any extra damage, but there's no way to hit the boss with both. So that's still as quick as you can do it. All right, phase 3. See if we can get that 6 cycle. Not quite, but it looks like it'll be an easy 7 cycle. I do need to not die. And I came close there. We'll pick up some of the health here, just as safety. Plus, the strategy for this room involves tanking a damage here anyways, so you definitely want that health. But you should only need to tank 1 damage, and there we go. Final boss is down. There's going to be a horrible screeching noise, and then time is when the last text box disappears from the screen, so horrible screeching noise. Fade to white. Time. And there we go. That is Anodyne 2, Return to Dust, all cards, good ending, in 1 hour, 37 minutes, 35 seconds. Now, I'm going to keep this video going for a little bit longer, because for the purposes of verification on the leaderboard, the moderators asked that you let the credits play out, load back into the save, and double confirm that you have all of the cards, if you're doing an all cards run. Obviously, if you're accepting this in a marathon, this is where we cut. So you don't need to actually sit through all of this, and I wouldn't factor it into the estimate. But yeah, um, that was a pretty solid run. I'm pretty happy with that. Um, you can see it's only a little bit slower than my personal best. Uh, so I think that's a fairly reasonable run overall. Uh, we, so yeah, we're gonna go through the credits here. Um, yeah, I don't have much more to say. If you're watching this from some game selection committee for some marathon, I want to thank you for your time for actually sitting through all this and watching it. Um, I am going to be performing this run at IndieThon Fall Follies 2022. So you can check out that run if you want to see it in an actual marathon setting. Um, that said, like like I said, I'm intending this for AGDQ 2023, and submissions for that close before IndieThon happens. So that's why you're getting this video and not just my marathon run. Um, but yeah. If you're just watching this for game submission, you can stop watching now. It's fine. Uh, I'm just gonna go through this. It's just a good habit to be in. All right, let's load back into the. I almost called it a seed. This is not a randomizer. Load back into the file. And just go through the cards real quick. You can see they're cards of various characters and locations we visited along the way. And there we go. We have all 25 cards. Great. All right. Well, YouTube, thank you for watching this run. Bye-bye.